Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thanks again to all of you who are joining us live today, and thanks to those of you who watch this again recorded afterwards. Today's agenda is a fun one. It's really, if there's a subtext or a subtitle for it, it's the future of technical data packages. We'll focus in a little bit on HTML standalone TDP exports, as you see in the first line item on today's agenda. But we'll just give it 1 minute. I'm going to monitor the attendees list and make sure we have enough folks to get started. We had a good number of people sign up today, so I want to make sure that we get everybody in here before we get formally started. We're, of course, again today joined by Paul Peralt and Jim Martin here at Anark. My name is Patrick Dunphy. I'm the head of marketing here at Anark, and we're excited for event season to just be getting going next week, starting with 3D CIC in Golden, Colorado. A bunch more events included. We'll talk a little bit more about that later today in the upcoming events and past webinars. And then we'll talk a little bit about some content. Jim's going to take us through various content that we have out there on our YouTube channels to make sure that you have access to anything that you may want to self-consume after today's meeting and into the future. So without further ado, let's hand it over to Paul. And Paul, you can get us started today. Welcome back. Great to have you back in another webinar.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome back is a funny phrase. Sometimes I feel like I never leave the office. So yeah, thank you all for joining and for your time and attention today. This is going to be a quick webinar. I think we're going to shoot to be done in half an hour. Have a lot of things to show. And so I guess, just to kick things off, I just want to say thank you all for your continued interest and support in Anark. We love our customers. We listen to our customers, and we want to, make sure that we have open channels of comms. So at the end of this webinar, you'll see Jim show a URL. We want to hear back from you. And so a lot of customers provide us with some really great ideas and things that we can do and innovate on. Just going to pop this slide up. This is primarily, we're going to be talking about the Anark Collaborate product at a glance today. And so some of you had seen this before, I think. We brought Anark Collaborate to market, many years ago. And as this slide shows, we've got, brand new user experience, user interface, brand new capabilities, and we're going to show you many of those today. Sort of the genesis behind this product is, of course, we got started with folks to help them publish PDF-based, 3D model-based PDFs with model-based definition. The whole genesis and the interest in PDF was, of course, to make it easy to open up, hardcore engineering and manufacturing product definition, digital product definition, without having a bunch of collection of different viewers for all the different CAD formats. And so Anark is really all about democratizing access to hardcore engineering and manufacturing data, making it available within formats and in different environments that, sort of lower the bar to be able to, interact and collaborate with that information. And so that's sort of the story behind Anark Collaborate. Just to be clear, let's just set some things, on the record. We love 3D PDFs. What we show you today isn't going to change that. We think that PDFs and 3D PDFs are going to be around for many, many, many years to come. Folks are publishing those just as sort of, single documents that they might share with people and collaborate and redline and mark up those PDFs. Of course, folks are creating contract and customer deliverables that are, essentially generated at the end, perhaps, of a release cycle or what have you. We just talked about this Collaborate environment, which provides a secure, say, file list environment where we can retain control of that digital product definition. And through the different permissions and privileges in the system, I might enable a role to be able to download something or not. So again, you can view and interact with data in this environment, but you don't have to download anything. And that means that you can retain control of your intellectual property better. The star of the show for this meeting today is we're going to take you through this, ability to create standalone HTML single file TDPs. So let's get into that.
And while you're Yeah, while you're switching over here, Paul, one thing I wanted to bring up is there's a new article on our website. You can go check it out in terms of the future of technical data packages and exactly what you were just describing. If you want to learn more about what that's all about in our strategy there with all three of these formats, it's a great read to go check out.
Thank you, Patrick. Excellent.
You got it.
And so just going to, sort of take you through where we've been and where we are and where we're going. So this is Anark Collaborate. We call it version 4.6.5. And in this, we introduced, this concept called content-centric collaboration. We have all these different data types, PDFs, CAD models. I can turn on all of my comments in this CAD model. These are all 3D, of course. I could click on one of those. It'll highlight that corresponding comment in the conversation. I can activate that particular comment. And really, each one of these comments is remembering the state of the model when this markup was made. So this particular markup was made by essentially adding a cross-section, a user-created cross-section, and hiding a bunch of parts and anchoring that comment to that particular part. So that's content-centric collaboration. And we wanted to introduce that before we roll out the brand new user interface and user experience and all these new capabilities in Anark Collaborate. This has not been released yet, just to be clear. It is coming in 4.6.7. So this will just be a point release. You would just install the point release. It's not a new product. It's just a continuation from where we've been and where we are and where we're going. So this new environment sets us up for a whole bunch of new things that we weren't previously able to do. So first of all, this is a very fast and responsive environment. This is something known as the Challenger, I think. It's a combine. It's got on the order of, like 4,000 or 5,000 occurrences. And you can see it just loads super quickly. Here is an assembly of, we work and love working with action engineering. And so here's an assembly. This is referred to as the ball valve. So some of the things that we can do in this new environment. So for folks that have been using 3D PDFs and have asked us, hey, can we have more than one 3D window or what have you? So you'll see here that, as a user, somebody that's accessing content or data in this environment, the person who develops the template, and again, the template, for those of you that have been, familiar with Anark products, you can create a template for a 3D PDF document that describes, where's the model view, where are all my views listed, notes, title block, etc. That same templating content or concept is available in this new environment. But again, because we're in the browser and we're not sort of bound by what you can do in a PDF document, I can do things like this, where I essentially assign a panel to a specific region. And right now, I'm going to connect these to these two different views. So when I activate this window, I can say I want that view or my notes in this particular window. I'm going to activate this window, and maybe I'm going to go down here and put my section view. And so this is really just starting to illustrate some of the new capabilities that this environment provides versus the previous Collaborate environment, and then also as compared to PDF documents.
Hey, Paul, we do have
Yes.
one question that came in that I think would be a great time to pop this in here. I'll read the question, and then I'll kind of give you my thought on where I think you could weave it together, and then love to hear your response. The question: do the 3D PDFs carry all the needed information, including PMI, as input to build a digital twin and a virtual commissioning tool for simulation? I think the foundational education 101 stuff on 3D PDF, file attachments, the other artifacts that can go along for the ride, as well as all the PMI translation, would be a great precursor to the rest of the things that you're going to show today.
Yeah, and it's a derivative from that authoritative source of truth, the original CAD model or assembly that again might be in PLM or for some folks are aren't using PLM and maybe multiple PLM systems. So all of that data is sort of published through this Anark publishing infrastructure and then ends up either in PDF or in this environment or both. So this is just some general, I'm just kind of demonstrating here some basic capabilities of what we call this new panels-based interface. And again, as a user, I might just arbitrarily decide, hey, I want to create another panel, and I might want to view the model side by side, or two different models of the two different views of the model side by side. Let me take this one step deeper here. I'm going to log in again. Sorry. Opening up these items, and you can see here that this is the Collaborate application. I've got navigation. I can collapse my nav bar. If I'm in my content view, maybe I like to look at this as like a sort of a sortable, filterable list. We've got search services in here. I can search for any type of substring. It's super quick. I just type in EP and it's finding all the matches that have EP somewhere in the name. So this is the Collaborate environment. And again, it offers this content-centric collaboration capability that I just showed. So, again, here's that model. I can turn on all my annotations or my comments. That's all within the Collaborate environment. But we also have customers that are asking us like, hey, I want to publish my data into the system, but I might want to embed that content within another application. What I just did is I just changed to a new tab and basically opened up the ball valve, this part. And you can see here in this particular representation, I've got all of the views parked on the right side, enabling me to, interrogate, navigate this set of views from Creo. But you notice that there's no user interface around this, nothing that indicates that it's living within or the Anark Collaborate application. As the industry evolves and people are rolling out different tools for what do we need to be able to do along this digital thread. And Anark's firmly, our understanding is that foreseeable future, there are going to be applications that humans use. We refer to that as human in the loop. And we want to make this data available within those applications so that it can be represented in the right workflows, the right contexts, et cetera. And so again, as somebody that might want to utilize Anark Collaborate, they might want to provide an interface to internal employees or suppliers that log in and have access to all of the things that Collaborate offers, and or both. You could do both. I might want to utilize this content within another application. And so this can be embedded as an iframe or as just a linked item. And so this particular URL would just open up this item without any interface at all. So now I'm going to pivot over just to another browser here real quick, and I'll show you some of the other sort of capabilities here. So again, we're looking at that ball valve, and I've arranged a set of panels here. So I'm starting to get into the capabilities for a panels or a template developer. So say the person, presumably at an OEM, that wants to create a template like this, so that when say suppliers or other people log in, they see the information presented in a certain way. Different panels can host different functionalities. And again, these are all wired together. So you see here, as I'm activating different views, I can target a new view within each one of these, 4-up style windows. And then if I activate one of these windows, it knows which view it's related to. So you can see I click here and it highlights that one, et cetera. So this is really a wide open environment to develop digital applications. But the panels foundation provides all of this sort of homework that's already been done to enable us to wire functional components like changing views into, a particular context, whether that's a 3D model or a PDF, etc. So again, here is that, sort of no Anark user interface. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here and type in like a secret API. And we are still trying to figure out how this capability would be exposed for either administrators or end users or what have you. You just saw that my browser refreshed. And now what I'm going to do is hit my Control S, Control Save. That'll bring up my save dialog, and I'll just call this the ball body .html. So I'll replace the other one that was there. I'll click the save button. Let's replace that. And so now it just told me that it downloaded an HTML file to disk. So I'll go over here. Let's open up my place where I saved it. And I'll just double click this. So when I double click this, it's going to open in my default browser, which happens to be Google Chrome. And so you can see here that entire content, that template, all of the interactivity, etc., has all been exported as a single file saved to disk. And now if I wanted to, I could just send that HTML file to somebody and they'd be able to open it regardless of the browser, regardless of the operating system. They don't need to have Adobe Reader. This is all functionally equivalent of a 3D PDF document, but described in HTML rather than in ISO standard for the PDF document. So the other thing that's notable about this environment too is that it's very, very fast and responsive. I'll pivot back over here to Mozilla. Here's that combine. This is a very large and complicated assembly, but you see here that I have 4 views. And what I did is I cloned this assembly 4 times. And so in this view, I've got 2 combines in that, 3D interactive environment. In this view, I've got 3 combines and finally 4. So the sum total of the entire size of this data set is 18,000 occurrences and 32.5 million faces. And again, within this browser-based environment, it's just far more performant, interactive, and this document, this HTML file that I exported, took 30 seconds to load. So 30 seconds, better than 10 minutes, or not loading at all in some cases for very, very, very large 3D PDF documents. And again,
so wait, Paul,
yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Are you're saying that the go grab a cup of coffee or put on a pot of coffee while the CAD model loads, days of joking about that are over?
Yes, and I would, the analogy I make is that, I love my kids, but I'm still faster than them on a bike. So,
nice.
So yeah, so again, not throwing shade at 3D PDFs, but there are certainly resource limitations. This environment, of course, there are also resource limitations, but this is a fully, 64-bit, highly performant environment. Every browser that's available, they all go through speed tests, and just so in any case, it's just a far more performant environment.
Another unique element that just came up in a question. So Bob, how you doing? Just saying hi because we see you every now and again, but he asked the question. So I'll protect people with no last names. But is the HTML content accessible on a mobile device? Kind of a setup softball question, but I think that's another interesting difference here in terms of various formats for various purposes.
Generally, yes. And there's going to be 2 parts to my answer. And those that know me usually say, hey, he's always got 2 answers for everything. Generally speaking, anything hosted in the Collaborate environment can be accessed on any mobile device, any operating system, etc. So if I logged into this environment on an iPad or a Galaxy tablet, I would be able to open and view all of the stuff. Now remember, this is a connected environment, which is hosted. So all of those connections would be, essentially taking place. I'd be logging in on my device over the network. For the standalone HTML, I'd say the answer is a little interesting. So I could send you this if you were using a device that ran Android. You would be able to just save this HTML file somewhere local on your phone, and you could just double click it and open it. On an Apple device, I can save it to disk on my iPhone or iPad or what have you. But unless I'm just thick, I cannot find a way to open an HTML file as a standalone file. It just sort of always wants to open with preview. So I've definitely got more investigation to do there about, say, opening a standalone HTML on an iPhone or an iPad. But generally, anywhere else you sent this file, they'd be able to open it, right there local from disk. One other thing, I'd had some questions in a previous conversation about, hey, everything that you're showing is pretty cool, but what about, my title blocks? What about my bill of material? What about, all the other things that we can do in PDF templates?
As you're going through all the other, let's call them decorations, all the other pieces that can go around this, the showcase on speed for large file sizes was good based on this question, but also curious about how well this holds true when you start adding other elements like annotations to the models, and how does that perform?
Lightning quick. So I don't have any really large complex models that aren't restricted. And so the models that I have access to are primarily, they only have a few annotations or what have you, and when I say that I have access to, that I mean aren't proprietary or company restricted or what have you. So, but in any case, to your point, it's, I have opened and saved and interacted with very, very large models, some of which I would say that have 30 plus views and hundreds of GDTs. And I have seen no discernible difference from, say, what I just showed you with that naked combine ×4. This one that I wanted to open, let's just do this. I'll open this up in Microsoft Edge. So here we go, Microsoft Edge. But hey, wow, now this is starting to look like a template that a PDF template developer or somebody that's publishing 3D PDFs might have created. So I've got different views again down at the bottom, which I can access and resize. And again, I would point out, as a template, or we're starting to call now as an app developer in this new environment, I, again, as that designer of this template, I can prohibit users from adding new panels and things like that. So again, to use the PDF as an analogy, I, as the app or the template developer, if this is the layout that I want my data to be presented in, I can refrain or omit from enabling users within Collaborate to modify or change the layout or add new panels or something like that. So you could think of it as like a lockdown mode. But yeah, so here's, bill of material. This is just, interrogating, or providing a flat structure for the assembly. This could be a hierarchical representation. There's no limit here within this environment about, layout or, whether we want to have a tree or collapsible structure or what have you. Here's a bunch of, sort of title block, some information about counts of GDTs and things like that. I'd also say that, again, this is a standalone HTML file. It's got a whole bunch of different capabilities here for, doing, real-time cross sections. And again, to help people interrogate this data set, this is a explain tool, but I can rotate this and really I can section across any different axis plane that I want. And so, yeah, we're really excited about new Anark Collaborate Foundation. It's going to be 4.6.7 when it's released. And all of the new things that we can do within this environment to not only provide a better user interface, faster, more responsive, address a lot of the feedback that we've heard from folks about the previous interface, the previous application, et cetera. And so again, this new framework, this new foundation that we've laid is also enabling us to do a whole bunch of things that we weren't able to. And we'd love to hear from you about how you might envision these standalone HTML files or UI less, embeddable content. So I think that's all the things that I wanted to demonstrate today. So I'll turn it back over to you, Patrick and Jim.
Well, good thing you got through everything quickly, because there are no shortage of questions today, as you can imagine. Let's go back to the AGCO combine.
Sure.
What's the general file size of these HTML packages? Right, so this was specific to the combine. How large is that file size, for example?
Oh, so let me just go over here. One moment. I think I was in Firefox, and there's my combine. So this is a 4x. It's a lot of data. And so I think this is the one right here. So that's 264 megabytes uncompressed. You could zip this up. It would get incrementally smaller. It's not going to be half that size, but there is a lot of data in this. So it's a large file. Also, I would point out that those HTML files, in addition to the model data, also have the entire Anark 3D renderer built in. So the renderer, all of this, thing that we call the panels framework, the ability to have all these different things wired up and talking to each other, et cetera. So it's really the model plus the 3D renderer, which is, again, that's a Anark. We develop it in-house. It's not licensed from anybody. In addition to all the code required to make all this stuff interactive. And so I think one of the questions that we're also looking to answer is that, is there a use case to have a completely stripped down to the bare bones, as small as these files could possibly be? But, again, that size reduction would likely involve reduction in the types of features that are available in the standalones.
And it might change your answer to this second question, which I think you implicitly answered. But does the standalone HTML file rely on any external libraries or references that would require an internet connection to function correctly?
Absolutely not. You could open them up in a vacuum, in a air-gapped network, and you would have no trouble.
Great. Are all these functions and actions for built-in views, frames, cross-sections, and annotations available programmatically through a published API?
Aha.
Somebody's thinking about the future of this, I can tell.
Yes. We are still adding APIs to this environment. And I would just, maybe using this one in Edge is a good example. So right now we have all the APIs to talk to and interact with what we call the components of something that is published. So, creating bombs, views, fetching different attributes from PMIs, all that kind of stuff. There are also APIs for each one of the entities in this toolbar. So like if I wanted to say, pick a part and then hide that part. So that's all available through APIs, et cetera. And so there's a set of APIs, let's say a handful of APIs for playing and stopping animations, things related to sort of work instructions and stuff like that. So we're still adding them, but yes, these will be available, documented, and in many cases, most cases, for folks that are familiar with developing 3D PDF templates, those APIs, all of the functions, they're all named the same. I can do like get occurrences, get entity by ID, all of the things that you would do in the context of a PDF template. You'll be able to do so in this environment as well. And I would just also say, we haven't documented all of these yet, so we're still working on that. But yeah, definitely the future is that folks are going to be able to build their own apps. And when I say application, I also want to mention that these things that we're working with, like I could utilize this model in a digital process where I'm going through the course of like 3 or 4, say, different pages of a digital form. We've been talking about, hey, how about a PPAP process? We could do that in this environment. No spreadsheets, no Excel documents, just a lot of form fields and a lot of next buttons and digital signatures and things like that.
And then a question on, let's call it high fidelity. We'll put that into that category. Question about the accuracy of surfaces, edges, vertices relative to native CAD. Specifically, this person's thinking about if taking a measurement in HTML, what are the nuanced differences that you may or may not see from native CAD?
Yeah, so as part of the Anark publishing process, we just call it generically, the author, the person that's publishing data into the system, can decide how much or how little detail they want. That tessellation, or that lightweight representation that is published in this environment, just to be clear, you will be able to validate these models against the authority for accuracy. That is something that, again, we didn't really have a great way to approach in the previous sort of architecture, but you'll be seeing that type of thing probably this year. We're laying the groundwork for validation for these models.
I'm just going to read this one to you. I don't have a good way to summarize this, but is there any post-processing possible with what you've been showing, or do these view exactly replicate what is being displayed in the CAD environment view? Sorry, I should have asked you, explain recipes.
Yeah. And I don't know if we have the slide handy, but so a publishing recipe is really a set of instructions for what do we want to import, how do we want to essentially pre-process it or prepare it for downstream publication into this environment or a PDF, or both, or whatever. Oftentimes, say a model like this, so shout out to Belcan and Action Engineering, a model like this might contain a bunch of CAD attributes that might contain personal identifiable information, say the name of the design engineer or the checker, or any of that type of info. And so a recipe can be created to remove that type of information, those attributes, from the published presentation, as well as normalizing. My experience, every designer has a different color scheme that they like to use in their CAD application. So recipes can normalize all of the different PMI colors and annotation colors, so that they're all uniform. A bunch of things that recipes can do. And then I would say, finally, the recipe describes, do I want to create a 3D PDF? Do I want to add attachments? Do I want to publish to collaborate? Do I want add attachments, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, recipes are the set of rules that describe a pattern for how we want to prepare data for publication.
And I do have the architecture slide up, the solution overview slide, Paul, just to highlight where publishing automation recipes plug into
excellent.
Overall architecture. So I flashed that up while you started your answer. Then I went back to your model. Then we went back to the slide right now.
No, that's it. And again, thank you all for your time and interest and your questions. And I'll look at that question panel shortly.
Perfect. You hit on a hot topic today, Paul. Nice work, as always.
Awesome.
All right, Jim, we'll hand it over to you at this point, and you can take us through a few additional pieces of information as we walk through these slides.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick. Let's stay on this slide real quick. For people who have worked with Anark before, you have probably seen this quite a few times. I use it all the time to explain the basics of how Workstation Desktop publishes recipes over to Publish. Paul talked about recipes, how Publish can automate these things. The output can be a 3D PDF technical data package. It can be Anark Collaborate hosted HTML content. And as Paul was talking about today, it can also be standalone HTML documents, which are, again, going to be within this world fully eventually. But at the moment, Paul showed how we're generating those directly from Anark Collaborate. So if you ever want to review these, there's a playlist at our YouTube channel that is an introduction to all these concepts where we kind of animate how Workstation works, how Publish works, how it gets to collaborate, show some content. It's almost 3 years old now. We're going to update all this coming up in the next few months with the new content center collaboration. But for now, the foundation hasn't changed. The way that we are using recipes, Workstation to create these documents and make them available as standalone or web hosted items on premise or SaaS, either way. So that, please go ahead and take a look at those playlists and see if there's anything interesting. Also, when you go out to the YouTube channel, you will also see the past webinars. So we did a webinar in December on Content Center collaboration. And in January, we talked a little bit about Anark Publish Gateway. And so those are all becoming available. Some things that are coming up, we are going to be at 3D CIC next week, 20 minutes from my house here in Denver. We are looking forward to seeing everybody there, where we'll continue to talk about these topics. It's hosted by Action Engineering and other sponsors. The valve model that Paul's been showing you is going to be a centerpiece of many of the conversations. And I will give everybody a challenge to find out why our HTML document that shows this valve body is accurate versus some of the ones that have been out there in the web. So I'll let you guys think about that for a little bit. There's ours is accurate, and there's according to the ASME standards, there's another one out there that isn't.
You're eliciting a Where's Waldo challenge?
There is.
Wow.
We'll be doing it next week too, while we're at it.
Good luck, everybody.
And by the way, this was confirmed by Action Engineering, not just me. So in addition, we just scheduled another webinar. We're going to go deeper into the DoD digital standard strategy that just came out and was published in January of this year. It has a lot of feed up from past DoD activities that involve, and here we go. Yep. Next webinar on the 19th. Got a link at the bottom, or I just posted the link to a button that you can go ahead and sign up for it. And in the follow-up to this webinar, I'll modify the email so that it also points to this. And we're covering the topic that we've been talking about for quite a while, which is 5097, which is a digital engineering environment that the DoD is looking for to eliminate files and traditional ways of communicating and collaborating with engineering data. Mill Standard 31000 doesn't go anywhere. And 5200.48, which is CUI for secure distribution and marking of not classified information within the DoD environments.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Jim, the link that you dropped is in the links panel, which is probably next to the questions panel where people have been asking questions. I think it also maybe popped up unless you dismissed it.
And if you want to talk to anybody about anything, just remember this URL. I'm kind of the traffic cop for anything that you want to get into. I can explain quite a few of these concepts at a level that Paul probably doesn't want to spend time on. When it gets deeper, we'll pull in technical members, Paul, other of our PLM integration team, whatever we need to talk about. And it could just be, hey, just give me an update on what Anark's up to at a basic level, and I can jump on. You can schedule your own time with me, and I'll coordinate it.
For the record, Paul would love to be involved in those conversations, except as he said earlier, he answers every question with 2 answers, so it would take twice as long. So you're the faster option.
And that's all I think we had. We look forward to seeing quite a few people at 3D CIC next week. We will be at the Defense Manufacturing Conference the first week of April in Orlando. We've got the MBE Summit, MBEQF Summit in Chicago coming up, and the PTC User Global Summit we will all be at in varying combinations of Anark people between myself, Pat, and Ali Ashtari, your account manager, some of you guys, and Jim Mary.
Great stuff. By the way, I will say we've got a good thing going on. We've had 0 drop in terms of these. People are joining, but nobody's dropping off. So I appreciate everybody staying in here until the end. Until we see you at an event or the next webinar, everybody take care.